August 16th, 3:26 a.m. I can't believe it's over. You know what I can't believe? That this is only 8,005 words. I'm only shocked by this. In the center of the burnt-out crater that had once been Lord Tirek, Princess Twilight Sparkle looked at her brother, then her friends. It was bad enough they had barely survived their own battle against the mad, murderous centaur, but now Shining arrived to give her initial reports, including one fatality she knew would crush her friends' already flagging morale. She looked around the blackness of Ponyville. Even though they managed to evacuate nearly the whole town, there had been casualties and extreme damage. She wasn't sure if Ascot and Cardigan had survived, but they deserved to know about their daughter's sacrifice. Twilight just wasn't sure how to tell everybody that the brave mare had been brutally and callously murdered by the mad stallion. She didn't have the tears to cry right now, not while so many of her subjects were suffering and losses had truly been tried. Her friends, her dearest extended family as far as she was concerned, had the right to know about the loss of one of their own. They deserved to know. She looked down, all clad in the armor that had been provided for them by the Tree of Harmony. In the distance was the towering crystalline castle that would stand as her new home now. Between the new rainbow power armor, as Pinkie had dubbed it, and the castle of friendship, there was more magic and friendship than ever before in her life. A strength and power that had judged Tirek guilty, it tore him to shreds before dispersing all the stolen magic back to the four corners of Equestria, restoring those that had been affected. But he couldn't bring back the dead. Few things, Alcorn's being a noble succession, as you well knew, ever came back from the dead. First, I looked at Twilight. Twilight, what is Shiny talking about? I hope it's that we won, Rainbow chimed in, thankfully oblivious to the situation. Tears came to Twilight as they knew she would never see her friend again. No, we lost. We lost more than I could ever say. Captain! Princess! The two royals turned to see a guard started to approach at a fast gallop. Coming to a skinny stop in front of the two, he quickly saluted and said, Message for the palace! The Air Princesses have returned! Looks of relief came over their faces. The loved ones were safe. How are they? Apparently unharmed, sir, Sally told him. We should expect further reports shortly once on-site personnel have swept the palace. Shiny nodded. Thank you, Bright Spark. That'll be all. Twilight let down. Shiny, go. Check and see if they're safe and give them a hug from me. The grin on Shiny's face was wide. You got it. As Shiny teleported away, the others looked at Twilight. Well, Lisa arrived and we took cute. Applejack asked, concern on her face. Leave it to AJ to pick up on something wrong, Twilight mused. No, not all of us, Dinsey explained. 30 seconds later, 6 mirrors tearfully embraced, crying for the loss of one of their own. At the castle, Princess Celestia looked at the wreckage Tirek and his armies had caused. Tens of thousands of her subjects were dead, countless injured, and several of the land's heroes gone, including... She turned away. There would be time for tears later. For now, there would only be healing and repair. Harmony would win the day. She would insist on it. Her thoughts turned to her daughter. For all the stories she heard about violence and insanity in the human realm, it was ironic that right now, this was the safest place Sunset could be. For all the tales of teenage boys acting like criminals and girls being victimized, they likely never seen anything on the aura of Tirek and his world-level spells of apocalypse. It was a very good plan to invest their magic in Twilight temporarily. Had Celestia and Luna taken the field, she wondered if there would have been anything of her realm left. Something gnawed at her. She didn't know what it was, but it tugged at the back of her mind and would not let go. An irony that it was the same way Raspberry's anti-brainwashing spell had worked. But she knew it would not be that. Far of her wish it would be. At least then. She turned away her thoughts on that. Instead of focusing on her hoof falls on the burnt, damaged marble, this part of the castle had recently been renovated in the wake of the Changeling invasion. Now it had to be once more. At least I know one part of the palace that still stands, she mused, as she turned to one of her most private heavens, the stained glass gallery. After a few more minutes, he entered a long highway with kaleidoscopic colors blazing from both sides through glass of different colors and shapes. She paused to look at the murals since the earliest days of the palace, each one reminding her of a moment in time where heroics ruled the day and good triumphed over evil, where heroes as varied and powerful as Starswirl the Bearded, Breakbreaker the Dauntless, and Wisteria the Wise of old, to modern counterparts such as Steadfast the Swift and the Element Bearers, all immortalized with their deeds in glass. forever to tell the stories the ponies needed to know. Now standing there, looking at each of these self-contained scenes with intent, was Discord. He sealed himself in his pocket dimension to protect himself. While that had been enough to prevent things from truly spiraling out of control, knowing him, it probably achieved that he had to do that. The Avatar of Chaos had always been one to throw himself into the fray, metaphorically or literally. But as he looked on, Celestia realized he was being serious now. And serious was not something she was accustomed from him. I heard about the losses, he says. He turned to look at her. That angers me, Sally. That is not chaos. That is terror. He sowed terror, harmed the innocent. Even my worst, I never did that. I know, she said softly. We appreciate that. I'm leaving. After I see the Fluttershy, and if I find she was harmed, I will not be very happy. I'm leaving. You're leaving? He nodded. I have become fond, you could say, of ponydom, of using my powers for chaos, of what I suppose you could call good. But sometimes I need my power to go in other ways. Not evil per se, but mischievous in a way you would prefer. He paused for a moment. Tirek may be dead, but his forces and followers are still out there. He may even have a way to resurrect him. Centaur magic is oddly strange like that. Ascension without ascending, if that makes sense. It doesn't. He grinned. I know, right? So I thought I'd go on this little trip around the world, learn what his resistors are doing, and see if I can't help them into a big old slice of chaos. He suddenly summoned a huge cheesecake with the word slice of chaos. No, really, on the side of it. Here, you have a piece. Don't worry, this one won't explode. Theirs? Now that I can't promise. He raised to the top of his head, proceeded to fold himself, origami style, until he turned to a paper beel and flew away. She chuckled, then took a bite of the cheesecake. She then gave the same kind of wicked grin he did. And T-Rex forces were still out there, ready to strike. They were due for a slight change in plans. Horatio can live with that. Auntie? Celestia turned to see Cadance and Luna approaching, their own faces downfallen. It had likely been as hard on them as it was on her. Enough for the last time the Sun Alicorn wished her mother would return to the earthly plane to deal with this. Are you alright? No, I'm not. We lost. The other Calder took a breath, then continued. So many of our ponies dead. Countless injured, the hospitals are overloaded, and we're setting up Tirad stations. I'm getting ready to fly out to the Crystal Heart to have it supercharge our healers to give those first aid. Luna looked vacantly into the window nearest to her, which happened to be the depiction of the elements as they feed Nightmare Moon. I've flown around the realm. Cities are in ruins. Whole portions of the nations are destroyed, sister. Our ponies are called for us for succor. She hung her head, saying, and we were just as helpless. We failed our ponies, sister. We failed our loved ones. Are you speaking in singular or plural? Cadance asked her other aunt. Does it matter? Fact is, whether I failed or we failed, all ponies paid the price. A price that should never have been dealt out. We did not watch out for the Nico community. She looked at her fellow Alicorns. What will we do now? We rejoiced in the fact that it could have been much worse, but it wasn't. Celestia told him. I feared that my plan to bring my daughter back would be unnecessary, but thankfully it wasn't. And now I can rest easy, knowing that she's in the human world, safe as can be. Meanwhile, Twilight Sparkle wanted to make whoever was screaming stop. It was a horrifying wail, the sound of a damned banshee, and the sound seemed to permeate all around, through her soul and beyond. She felt like the world was pain and would never end. My fault, she said to herself, a damning mantra. My fault, my sister's dead. My fault, 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 my fault. Twilight crawled into a fetal ball, wanting to die. She sinned and would never be forgiven. As she just tried to understand, as she tried to comprehend and not be a cunt like Octavia told her, since it would still be alive. My fault, 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 my fault. When her parents fully realized she was responsible for the death of her sister, they would disown her. Shine would throw her in prison, rightfully so. Cadance would probably push to have a life sentence thrown at her. Spike would tell everyone he never had a sister, or he was ashamed to have an older sister. Or maybe he would tell others that Octavia was that. Never was Octavia herself. Her cousin was already mad at her for mistreating Sunset, but now Sunset was dead due to her own immaturity. How would Octavia react? Would Twilight's first and dearest friend, the person who had been so long like a sister to her, spurn her as well? Octavia and Rarity were already close, so would that link be straightened? And what about the links that Sunset had with her friends? Friends she had because of that girl she had killed. Rainbow and Applejack would likely beat the hell out of her. Rarity would never speak to her again, nor would Fluttershy. And then there was Pinkie. Pinkie, who Twilight recently learned was in love with Sunset, and Pinkie had already blown her top once at Twilight over the issue. Pinkie was an enigma wrapped in a cipher, slathered with a side puzzle sauce. No one ever knew what the cheerleader would do on a good day, never mind a bad. That terrified Twilight most of all. But if I die, I deserved it. But maybe if she took herself out first, it'd be better for everyone, she thought. She nearly done it once before, but thankfully Sunset had been there to protect her from herself. It had been Sunny that saved me, until I backstabbed her like the grateful bitch I am. My fault, 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 my fault. Twilight turned briefly to look at the unconscious girl next to her. The one that looked like her sister. So much like her sister, but wasn't her. Because this one was from this world. This was the Sunset Simmer that belonged on Earth. But it wasn't the one that belonged to Twilight. Twilight murdered that Sunset through her own callousness. Twilight tried to look away, but couldn't. The naked, insensitive girl was a haunting image. Simple what Twilight had done to her sister. Twilight might as well have gutted her sister from top to toe, because in the end, Sunset Simmer was dead, and Sunset Simmer was alive. But the living Sunset Simmer meant nothing to Twilight. Only the dead one did. Dead girls told no tales. Please let me die. My fault, 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 my fault. Because I deserved to die. Because it should have been me so long ago instead of her. Maybe if I died, maybe Sunny would still be alive. It just tells you another place, another time. It was at that point she noticed the item on the ground. A handgun. She scrambled over to it like a lifeline. Her precious and shining way of removing herself from the world and sparing those that would hate her any grief. She picked it up like a priceless treasure, checking the weapon automatically like Shining had once taught her in Octavia. It was an irony. Shining had taught her how to use a gun, even though she didn't care for them, because he wanted her to be safe in case she ever ended up in a situation where she needed to protect herself. And now, with memories coming to mind, she checked the weapon, ready to use it one final time. On herself. This world would be better off without me. I can't bring my Sunny back, but maybe removing myself will make things better. Certain that the gun was loaded and a round was in the chamber, she raised the gun to position, ready to place it against her temple and pull. Her hands were shaking, and for a moment she imagined she heard Sunset's voice in the distance, screaming for her to stop. It was just imagination. Her sister was gone now due to Twilight's own stupidity and selflessness, and nothing she would ever do could repair that. As she started to raise the pistol to her head, she saw a stirring in the distance, in the opposite direction where they had been. It was him, the man that had kidnapped them, treated them like dirt, forced them to watch this horrifying grand guignol, and intended to kill them afterwards. The man who had that woman that looked like Celestia had said been at for longer as he had known, before any of them had ever been aware. For some reason, intense anger suddenly began to build in Twilight. She killed her sister because of her selfishness, but he had tried to kill her whole family, possibly the world. The world Sunset had died to not only save, but rescue the girl whose form she had taken. Her sister had saved every one of a species she didn't belong to, and that had been the fault of the man now brushing himself off. She had killed Sunset, but Sunset had saved her from this man. A low, keen giggle came out of Twilight's mouth. This was it, wasn't it? A fresher mind started to slam jigsaw pieces into place, regardless of where they belonged or not. Kill the man, Sunset would be saved. She could redeem herself for what she had done. She could prove to everyone that she had loved her sister after all, and did not want her dead. Twilight started to laugh. Of course! Ignoring the maze of bruises and aches that spiderwebbed all over his body, Divine Ray had brushed the dust and detrist off himself, looking for where the exit was. He couldn't feel his magic anymore, and his attempt to summon Grogard to do his bidding had failed twice. First, by the accidental summoning of that demon bitch, followed by a second Sunset Simmer. It was seen to be everything he ever wanted to be. It wasn't fair. Well, fair or not, he destroyed everything. Everything he had worked so hard for. He was going to have to get out of here. Thankfully, he had a chance to do so. He already had a backup identity in the then unthinkable case that something went amiss. And now it had, All he had to do was make his way down to L.A., where he maintained a careful backup existence as a French turned businessman years ago. He done it under the advice of his mentor when he had been a student there in the university days, and had kept it up since. Now with the world thinking that Prince Divine Right was dead, he'll make his way south and become that new identity. It also mean having to leave Katana behind, but that's how things went sometimes. Maybe he ran to her along the way, he convinced her to come with him. If not, well, he was still rich and still had a chance to rebuild. Youthful looks and a long-lasting life were tenets of his family, after all. A blessing from the father of fathers in his magical bloodline. Yes, that's what he would do. He'd make his way south, move into his house on Newport Beach, tell his neighbors he was done traveling, permanently settling down in the good old US of A. He'd bide his time, let his magic rebuild. Surely it couldn't be gone. Research and wait. Surely Grogar wasn't the only trapped demon here. He heard rumors of other places and other things. Magical stones in the American Midwest, for one. He knew there were other magical bloodlines on Earth, some not tied to the Father of Fathers. Maybe that had been his mistake, hiring mere brainless muscle instead of recruiting an army of magic users to do his bidding. Well, time to rectify that problem. He's pretty sure he could either get Katana, or a Pitts, hopefully a pliable and willing siren girl, and come with him and work on his plan. It might take a decade or so or more, but if his once mentor could do it, so can he. That at least was the plan, until his shoulder exploded with pain and he was knocked off his feet once more. As he crashed to the ground, he could see the blossom of bullet hole appear on his right shoulder blade, so the teeny sound of gunfire again. The bullet ricocheted off the ground close to him and freaked him out. A voice sang out of the distance. Female sing-song, clearly not all there. Of course this land is dangerous. Of all the animals are completely murderous. He reached for his gun, only to find it wasn't there. It had been knocked away from him when he had been thrown, or taken from him. It didn't matter either way. A third shot rang out and clipped the ground near him, indicator where the singer was hell-bent on harm. When I was a girl, my big brother held on his hands. He made me slap on my own face. He got out to run. The hidden doorways were around here somewhere. Even in this weird room, he made sure to have an escape plan. All he had to do was find a part of the rocky wall with a slight vein of silver. Touch that, and the door would open. He chanted to read his fingerprint. Thankfully, so even without his magic, the door would pop open once he touched the silver end. The gun reported once more, and Divine felt a sharp pain burst his left calf. He felt something slam him hard in the leg and he went down. Tenderly, ungratefully, until coming to an agonizing stop. He heard 2 more rounds, and knew the magazine was halfway empty. But all it took was a single round in the right place to get the job done. I looked up at him then, and still do. He was trying to teach me something. The girl approached him. It was one of the mouseier girls from earlier. The one with the dark plum hair with the odd violet infused socks. When he saw her earlier, she had been terrified, and absolutely unlikely to do any harm whatsoever. If anything, he figured the Japanese girl with the saffron pink hair and torn shirt was the dangerous one, despite the bravado of the other two. But now, looking into her purple eyes, he could see that she had been pushed well beyond too far. Whatever sense of sanity had once been there was now shattered and scared. But now I know what it was, she sang softly. A twisted nursery rhyme he never heard before. It was clearly of American origin. Now I know what he meant. Now I know what it is. She took aim out and fired once more. The bullet crazed past his ear. When he wasn't physically harmed, he felt a slight stinging and something liquid rolled down the side of his head. Whether it was sweat or blood, he wasn't sure, but he didn't try to investigate. Now the same girl holding a gun at him. One must see the other, who runs free before him, puts them right in his mouth, while fantasizing the beauty of his moments. A sensation not unlike slapping yourself in the face. It's like slapping yourself in the face. He put his hands up. In Barricades, he probably would have considered trying to outmuscle her and get away. But he was wounded, and baggages to begin with, and she was the one with the gun. What do you want? He asked. I want you to die, she said in a childish sing-song voice. A natural smile came over her face. A girl's giggle uttered from her lips. Right eye twitching involuntarily. I want you to bleed. Look, what do you want? He begged, his voice rising a pitch. Money? Power? A country? I can give you that. Just let me go. I want what you stole from me, she murmured. I want the life you took from this world. What? Was it those worthless girls? He answered. They were nothing on me, so it ended. Dude, there's a girl right in front of you with a handgun pointing at you and has gone Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs. I think you should not start insulting her. Another round went by his head, and he realized that was the wrong thing to say. Of course, he only had 2 rounds left, but her stance and grip, someone taught her how to use a firearm. All she would need would be 1 bullet. Give me back my sister, the Angel of Death spoke. Give me back Sunny! Divine didn't know who Sunny was, nor did he care. He only knew that he could not give her what she wanted. That meant he was going to die. I can't! He shrieked and felt something wet cascade down his pants once more. I can't! Then you die, the Hell Princess before him said, cocking back the hammer. The first round brought Cyan back to consciousness. The second one brought him to alertness. By training or instinct, he immediately crouched low, looking for the gunman, only to hear a third round in the distance. When that happened, he knew distance would buy him time. He started to see the others stir, and breathed a sigh of relief, glad everyone was okay. No, everything's not okay. His mind suddenly brought back to him with stark reality. They were in the same location as earlier, but it looked like a bomb had exploded. Sunset had fought that demon. That other Sunset. The last thing he remembered was the magical overload caused by... He shook his head. He needed clarity right now. Thinking about it was not going to help in the least. He then looked around and noticed both Sunset and Twilight were missing. Another round went off, and he turned to look at the direction of the gunfire. In the distance was one of the Sunsets, unconscious, and a pile of black ass. In the far distance was Twilight, leaning over at something he couldn't see. Another round went off again. He realized where the sound was coming from. Twilight, don't! He shouted as he scrambled to his feet, forcing himself to move, to run as fast as he could before his kid sister murmuring someone. He knew he wasn't going to make it before she did. There were times in the history of warfare where things went south, where assured victories became losses and easy victories became Pyrrhic ones, and then there were those defeats, those stands where one was absolutely so confident that everything would go one's way, that the signs to the contrary in hindsight were glaringly obvious. Such is now the condition that Katana Blast found herself in, kneeling on the ground with her hands behind her head, next to 2 more sirens, 2 that had stuck with her and proved her to be pilotless sycophants. Meanwhile, holding guns to their head were a trio of teenagers, triplets, the petite Sewers, the magical Storm, and her teammates, girls she dismissed as pointless and had one of her assassins put down. Girls who clearly outwitted their attacker, that solicited help and stormed the Bastion, even as it meant destroying everything he had ever known. For a terrible moment, Katana realized she chose the wrong girls to put under her direct command. Even her aces in the hole, the Siren Black Team, now sat in cages, transforming into something else as a result of Defiant's magic, their own ruthless tendencies. She wondered what problems they would cause if they were to ever be freed, given the serum had failed more than once, horribly in many cases. Siren had turned against Siren, and whatever damage these 3 had already done had been on top of what the Sisterhood had done to itself. Wait. Did the Siren Black Team just get taken out and captured off screen? Oh, man. Disappointment of the whole fic. Katana Blast. The one Katana recognized as Seaman and Dazio Dazzle spoke, regal and dangerous. For a second, she looked like the apex predator she was, a creature of power and majesty. By National Secret Order 221.4A62 of Sunset J, I forcibly relieve you of command. A child like you is the senior-most siren left who is not being charged with a crime, and I am taking over command. She looked at her youngest sister. Seaman Dusk, what's Captain Blast charged with? Sanaa thought about it for a second, then reached into her pocket for her phone. Let's see. There's QR and O, Volume 2, Chapter 103, which covers offenses. She sent her way through several websites before continuing. Well, let's see. We have Article 103.06, Failure to Command Properly in an Accident Environment. Article 103.8, Violations of National Security. Article 103.9, Acting Illegally Without Orders. Articles 103.11 and 12, which are about mutiny and offenses related to 103.15, advocating governmental teams by force, 103.16, disobeying lawful command, and my favorite one to apply in this situation, 103.17, striking or offering violence to a superior officer. See, bent down, looked Katana in the eye. Like ordering the Admiral's death. Katana spat Sonata, but she dodged in time. It was assault, or sorry, struck her upside the head. What was that? Sonata looked at her phone again. Could be 103.20, which is resisting arrest, 103.25, was this scandalous behavior by officers, or maybe even 103.28, was this abuse of subordinates. Take your pick. Arya looked at her sister. I think we could probably go through the whole book at cherry pick. From where he stood, Sable laughed grimly. You are on American soil. I'm sure we have a copy of the UCMJ online if you want to start adding to it. Sonata stood uneasily looked at him. Thanks, but no, I think we're covered. Adagio moved in front of Katana. You know what I could do under 221.4A2J, but I want to give you a chance, one we both know you don't deserve. Surrender, and we'll turn you over to the authorities. It doesn't have to be like this. Fuck you! I lived like a soldier and I'll die like one! So be it. Under National Secret Order 221.4A Section 2, Subsections K, I hereby assume command as a senior most siren available. Do I have concurrence? Arya spoke. As the second-ranking one, I concur. You are now in command, Sub-Lieutenant Dazzle. The newly promoted Adagio looked at her sister. Thank you. Katana Blast, I hereby strip command authority from you and your subordinates and pronounce emergency trial under 2214A3B. Do you have anything to say? One of the sirens there snarled. Let me have this, and I'll tear your fucking throne out, kid! You don't have the stones to do this! Adagio looked at Arya. Seaman Blaze, Seaman Dusk. If they speak again, you have my authority to summarily execute them. She turned back to Canada. Captain Blast, you are hereby ordered to give a response. Any response that other than what I find acceptable will take as a sign of hostility and allow me to deal with it under 221.43 AD. Am I clear? Katana Blast was quiet for the longest time, didn't open her mouth. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. Enough of an answer from me, Daji said, pulling out her sidearm. Seaman Blaze, with me. Seaman Dusk, if they move, kill them. Katana ignored them and continued to sing. Her fellow prisoners joined in. True patriot, love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, to true north strong and free. Seaman Blaze. Dacio says he walked behind him. Ready your gun. On my order, fire. Shouldn't you let them? Sable asked, his unfinished sentence speaking for itself. Would you let criminals get away with singing the Star-Spangled Banner as an excuse of being executed for countless crimes? Dacio asked him honestly. Fair enough. I don't like this, he admitted, but I'm not in command here. She walked over to him. I don't like it either, she admitted softly. But if I don't do this now, I don't know if I'll have the strength to later. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. I can do it if you want. She went down sadly. This is the last thing we do as sirens. After this, it and we are over. It is my final duty. He could not argue, but instead gave a terse nod. Taking down as a sign, Adagio walked back to where Arya had already had her gun drawn. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for BLAM! See, Adagio finished, lowered the smoking gun, tears stinging in her eyes. You know, that's actually a yeah moment. Then you die. Twice said, cocking back the hammer, pulling down the trigger to defy divine punishment against the monster. It would mean that she would be a murderess again, already cost her sister's life. Her world was already over. She listened for the sound of gunfire, closing her eyes and unable to look at the man she was about to kill. The sound never happened. She looked at the gun, as it was now being encased in black, sharp crystals. The onyx spars started growing at a ridiculous rate along the barrel, marching towards her hand as she was only able to let go of it. Her whole thing became a forced geode of black crystals glowing with yellow energy. Twilight only had a second to stare, incomprehensibly, at the encased weapon before the blow came. You stupid Harry Adele! A voice screamed at her as Twilight crumpled to the ground from the punch she took to the face. She felt the world spin for a moment, but when she recovered, she looked at her attacker. A girl who had the same features and looked at her sister, but somehow wrong. Burgundy eyes, same hairstyle, but hair tones of lilac and a non-photo blue. The tan skin of a tone similar to rainbow. As it was if someone had requested a copy of Sunset, and insisted that copy had to be palette swapped, as of a character in a video game or animation. It was the eyes filled with anger and disappointment to hit her the worst, and the hardest. This stranger, a third Sunset, if that, held a tone that was filled with pure bile and anger. "How dare you!" she said. "How dare you try to throw away your life after everything your sister did for you? Not once, but twice, but countless times! Your sister just sacrificed everything to save you, and every pony she loved, probably this whole Celestia damn world, and you want to throw your life away by trying to kill that stallion over there?" The girl in her eyes was disappointment, stronger than anything Twilight experienced. "You don't deserve to be called Twilight Sparkle, brat!" "Who?" Twilight began. "Doesn't matter who I am," Raspberry said. Realizing what happened the moment she came in, she needed to compose herself, because some human had the right to know. It's for Sunset's sake. "It doesn't matter one little damned moment who I am. It matters that your sister loved you more than anything. She died to protect you. Now you want to throw away everything? It won't bring her back, Twilight. The dead rarely come back, and you don't ever want to see how it happens when they do." The words broke the spell of insanity in Twilight, as he started bawling once more, screaming in rage, pain, and sorrow, unable to hold it in anymore. Her sister was dead. Shining finally reached her and took her in his arms. "It's okay, Twilight. It's okay. No! She died, Shining. It's my fault," she moaned. "It's my fault." "It's no one's fault, Twilight," he said, tears stinging his own eyes as he realized his soon-to-be adopted sister would have never reached that stage. "She did what she had to in order to save us." "She did," Raspberry agreed, trying to fight back her own tears. "She was one of the best of us." Shining looked at the new girl and who she looked like. Now was at a loss for words. "Who?" was all he could say. "A friend, Shining Armor," Raspberry replied, knowing in instant who he was. "Take care of her and I'll deal with the stallion." "Stallion?" Shining asked and realized the context of the word. "So you're—" "He will pay for his crimes. Here in the world that Sunset and I are from, but he will pay. I promise you that. For right now your sister needs you." He nodded and walked away, taking Twilight with him. Raspberry didn't turn to see the man puddled in his own pile or urine. "Clearly still brave to face against a broken girl, I see. Glad to see that human idiots are just as stupid as the ones we have at home. I suppose you're the one to blame for all this? Well, no matter. As Archmages of Equestria, you're under arrest for the murder." Raspberry's tears finally started to come. "For the murder of Sunset Shimmer, Baroness of Westphalia. You have the right to legal assistance, but anything you say may be used against you during trial. I suggest you come along quietly," she said, summoning a ball of magic, "but I'm more than willing to deal with you if you don't." "Who are you?" Defiant begged. "Apparently very popular." She wiped her eyes and summoned magical hobbles around his arms and legs, or levitating with spirit golden magic. "Don't worry, no harm will come to you, at least not until the princess finds out what you've done. And I don't envy when she does." As the magic began to encase him, his eyes widened. "You bitch!" he spat. "You stood my magic." She paused to look down closely, as if putting him under examination. "You're right. This is your magic. I can see the signature clearly, which means that sooner or later it'll flow back to you. Thanks for letting me know." Sure enough, a small tendril started to slip away from her, headed for him. Quickly, she summoned a horn restraint, and realized it was too small. Humans didn't have horns. She looked at him again, resized it for his neck, and slipped it around it. The magic didn't cut off, headed back to her for the moment. "I swear I am never going to get used to this universe," she muttered. Raspberry walked on until she approached another sight she hadn't expected. The human Sunset Shimmer being held by a human Celestia. "So I guess they were always meant to be together," Raspberry said to no one in particular. For coming and stopped before them. "Don't ask who I am. That's getting kind of old," she told the pair. "Just think of me as a friend, and let's call it that. First," she tapped the human Sunset, a clothing blossom on her. By Raspberry, she realized it was the same clothing she'd seen on Sunset when Raspberry arrived on this world. "Sunset," nodded, while Celestia had a sudden venomous look on her face. "What are you going to do with that fils de pute?" asked the Archmagus. If he's lucky, a prison he'll never escape. If he's not, I can't begin to describe what'll happen, she replied honestly. I want him when he can never harm anyone again, Solaire demanded, then turned to Divine. Écris-toi, salaud! Raspberry looked about. You don't have many friends, do you? I should introduce you to Toi. A pause. Nah, she doesn't need a headache. I'll deal with you myself. By the time Raspberry escorted the others to where the main group was, she could see why Sunset reacted to her friends. Sunset's own friends looked very similar, humanness notwithstanding, but they all looked at her in shock, including a second Celestia stood next to, presumably Luna's counterpart. Please, I know you have a lot of questions, Raspberry began before anyone could say the word. We're all overwhelmed right now. We just lost someone who was dear to us all. Lost? Pinky asked in a choked voice, her hair seeming to straighten slightly. Pinky, she's gone, Twilight sobbed. It's my fault. Pinky fell back in a stupor, unblinking, staring into the distance, her hair instantly losing its sinister curls and becoming straight, hanging over her face like a morning veil. But she wasn't the only one. Everyone began crying as the realization Sunset Shimmer wasn't coming back hit them like a ton of bricks. The only ones who did not were Solaire and Shimmer, too confused as to why things were happening and how they were impacted by it. Raspberry, regardless of the situation, turned away and cried as well. She didn't know Sunset as well as she should, but she knew braver when she saw it, and two mares she befriended were now gone. If Equestria still stood, she had every intention of keeping her promise to Vavaban, even if man was going to be pulling eye teeth. Well, how was he going to explain this? To Twilight and the others? To Celestia? She went over to a rock and sat down, looking at the magic in her hand. Would this stay? Was she? And the Equestria was gone, where could she go? And where would she put her cargo? She had every intention to bring him to justice. What if the beauty of Equestria no longer existed? She might technically be a princess, but she didn't have the advantages of Luna Celestia's wisdom. All she could do was wing it. Excuse me, may I speak to you for a second? She looked up to a face that had familiar eyes, long chiffon hair. Voice was the same, but the tone was more confident, even heartbroken. Well, Fluttershy here really is different. Laura Sunny had that much of an influence on her. Can I help you, Fluttershy? You know who I am? The girl asked. Second later, she realized, oh, you know about my counterpart. You know about your counterpart? Raspberry asked, surprised. Fluttershy nodded. Sunny didn't want us to tell him about him. We kind of figured it out. Fluttershy wiped her eyes and started crying again. Raspberry went over to hug the teen. Shy's a friend of mine, so I'm sure she'd want me to help, Raspberry explained. Thank you. Fluttershy remembered she let go of the strange girl. So who are you? You're from Equestria, right? Raspberry nodded. Raspberry Barrel. Archmages of Equestria and Court Mages of the Court of Friendship. Raspberry said with a slight curtsy. Do you all know? No, just me and my friends, as well as Miss Celestia and Luna. Everyone else doesn't, including Twilight and Taffy. So you had to be specifically careful around them. I see. She went to Pinky, who Rarity was worried over. Is Pinky going okay? Not at all. She was in love with Sunny. Yeah, this is definitely not the world I know. The Pinky I know barely knows what romance is. So what happens now? Rosario was about to speak when she heard an unnatural sound behind her. She turned to see three massive creatures rushing towards them. Ah, okay, I feel better now. There they are. They looked horrific, crosses between squids, canines, and lizards. They rushed a group with murderous look in their eyes. Great, more shit. This human world sucks. As the creatures attacked, they found themselves slamming against golden barriers that protected everyone. You know, if I wanted to see horror plays, I would just went to the attended Rainbow Factory. That one even had Rainbow, a friend of mine, freaking out for days afterwards. As the creature slammed repeatedly against the barriers in the attempt to take him down, Raspberry walked over to him and examined the creatures. So, these things were human once. They had the same signature of magic as. She looked at Divine. What in the Tartarus did you do to them? When Divine refused to answer, Raspberry looked at the former humans again, secretly grateful that the limit of her own dark corruption was barely a physical one, whereas these three were consumed both in mind and body. I could restore them, maybe, but they might be far too gone. This is one brutal, anamorphic spell, the kind that teases everything about the being, including their unical... Humanical? Raspberry reached up with renewed magic and picked the three up. Under her eyes, I could see horror. They're still unstable. They're still changing. Unstable? Someone in a black voice, but Raspberry didn't turn to see who it was. Yes, unstable. There's no closure to the spell matrix. They'll be forever transforming, never keeping the same shape. I can bring them back, but like I said, their minds may already be gone. The damage to their psyche may be irreversible. While waiting for her answer, Raspberry used her own magic to pull deep within, reaching for the core of the spell, and then yanked. The change was immediate. There was an explosive light, and when it was over, 3 naked girls hit the ground, still in the animalistic mindset. They dived right at their barriers, minds insanely gnashing away, intending to feed or do whatever it took to get to their prey. That's enough. Another spell and they were done. She turned to look at Divine. There's really nothing left of their minds. I hope you're proud of yourself, monster. What happens now? They started to urge Celestia. We can't stay down here. I don't want to stay down here, not with... She started crying again. An explosion went through part of the wall, and a quartet came in, armed to the teeth. Think this is the place? One asked. Sable looked around, saw the group. A massive smile coming to his face. Yeah, this is it, he said, slinging his rifle. They're alive, Sanaa said, a white smile coming to her face as she saw the friends in the distance. Yeah, we're alive too, Arya said, hugging her sisters. Yeah, it's great to be alive, isn't it? Adagio laughed as she saw the woman that must have been Sables' girlfriend rush up to him, hold him tight before kissing him like they were in a Hollywood movie. The others came up to him, and as Raspberry approached it, Adagio's smile fell. Well, you survived, the now former siren commented. Guess you aren't all bad. We didn't all survive, Raspberry said softly. Some of us keep too much. Adagio instantly realized what the former unicorn meant. She was my friend. I'm never going to forget her. Despite the enmity between the two, Raspberry patted Adagio on the shoulder. She deserves to be remembered. Let it out when you get the chance, did you? Yeah, we did. It's over. But we didn't win. Adagio sank to her knees, crying for everything she had lost. We didn't lose, but we sure as hell didn't win. No, we didn't, Raspberry said, reaching down hugging the other girl. For once, Adagio didn't argue, but embraced her rival. That's the number so far. Ravenquill looked wiped out. Given he was partly in bandages, it's amazing he was here, still giving Celestia reports. Thank you, Raven. Now please go seek further medical attention. But Princess, how will... Celestia placed a gentle hoof on her secretary's mouth. Far less than my faulted assistant is hospitalized, she insisted. Please, Raven, the paperwork can wait. Your health and safety cannot. Raven smiled. Thank you, Your Highness. The mayor gingerly hobbled out of the room, headed towards the infirmary. Celestia took that as a sign to make another flight around the nation for the sake of her ponies. Keynes had returned to the Empire to see to her ponies there. Luna had already departed Equestria, seeking assistance from their allies. Twilight was doing what she could, but she was not ready yet. Then Celestia felt it. A snapping in her soul. Something vital had died. Some pony had died. Spells she had cast on Sunset, just before she returned to the human world. In a flash, the Princess of the Sun saw everything. Redora's fight with the demon, Sunset doing the impossible in order to save the human realm, and paying the ultimate price. Sunset was dead, and after seeing Celestia had done to keep her foal safe, her filly was dead. The princess stopped to taunt the lonely spiral and wailed. A second later, the mountain exploded. It took 2 days for ponies to cool down the lava once been a lonely spire, long enough to get to their hysterically crying princess, sobbing about her dead baby.